All right, so in this video, I will show you how to use story points to tell stories with data in Tableau. We learned about how to create a dashboard, but sometimes dashboard can be difficult for the users to work with. Even though it facilitates deeper explorations, sometimes it can be not very user-friendly, meaning that the user has to figure out how to operate the dashboard, and they probably don't know where to look at, which data points are important, and so on and so forth. So we can use a story to guide the users through the data to help them better understand the data. So let's start creating a story point. In order to create a story point, look at the bottom right corner, then you will see this little icon called New Story. So once you click it, and that'll open up the story points interface. Story in Tableau is very simple concept. It has a sequence of events or sequence of story points, and each story point can contain narrative text or the visualizations or dashboard that you created. So it's like a story with the events with visualizations and text as their main components. So for example, these are the visualizations that you created. You also see the dashboard here. You can simply drag one of these chart into the story point, then that will appear uh, in the story point. So that's how you add a story point. I will show you here. I will try to kind of create a story point in order to explain the dashboard that we created. So I will first start with the line chart, which is the top component in the dashboard. So I will drag this line chart and I will explain this line chart first. And then I will add another story point and I will add a bar chart here and I will explain this first. And then I will add another story point. The next story point, I will explain the distributions. Um, and in the next story point, I will explain the scatter plot. And then that will lead to the final dashboard where users can explore the data on their own. So I want to give a more like a tutorial, like explaining what the data set is. And then at the end, we open up uh, a dashboard so that users can explore the data on their own. So it's more like my story structure is more like a martini glass structure, if you know what I'm saying. So let's start with the line chart. Just leaving this chart as it is not very user friendly. So we're going to add some narrative text. First, we're going to start with the title of the story. Right now is story one, which is not very informative. So we're going to use this title as analysis of US petitions filing trends. And then you can also add a caption for each story. So I'm going to add a caption here. Petitions have surged, peaking in 2015. And we're going to use annotation to highlight this peak. Select this mark and right click, click annotate, and click the mark. And I'm going to just change this name to petition. And then I will add annotation label. Steady 4-year climb culminates here. So that's our annotation explaining what this chart is about. And then I also want to add a narrative text as well, explaining this story point. So here I already prepared the text here. So I'm going to just copy and paste it and hit OK. So that is our first event or first story point in our story in the Tableau. Um, so it's much better than just, throwing the line chart to the user and then the user has to kind of figure out where to look at, right? We are providing more guidance. So let's move on to the second story point. In this story point, we want to highlight the top filers. So I will first add a caption for the story points and then select these companies that files the petitions most. I will just leave the highlight as it is. Then the Tableau will retain the highlighting in the story point. So for example, even if you duplicate it, it will retain the highlight here. If I de-highlight it, right, then I can see all the companies here. But if I go back to the previous story point, the previous highlighting that you made, it is remained intact. So that's the benefit of using story. You can kind of highlight different points, even if it is from the same chart. So I'm going to remove this duplicate story point. And here I also want to add a narrative text as well. So I'm going to drag the text box and copy and paste the narrative text that I wrote before. and explaining these top filers of the statisticians. All right, so that's our second story point. Let me move on to the third one. I'm going to add a caption for this one as well, which states filings are concentrated in the US tech and business hubs. So, which means like in California and Northeast, there are more companies filing petitions more than other regions, right? And I'm going to add, again, I'm going to add a narrative text here as well. Copy and paste the narrative text here, explaining the geographic distributions are not equally distributed, but more concentrated on, special states like California, Texas, and Northeast. Uh, if you want, you could also highlight certain states using highlighter here, where you can, highlight certain regions if you want. Um, I also want to highlight, visually highlight the states like California, Texas, and Northeast, or the states that have a certain number of um, petitions. So if I go to the map, then we have this aggregate measure here, right? Which is the measure selected. I believe that's the measure one selected. So I'm gonna drag this measure one selected to the filter, and then hit OK, and I will visualize the filter like this. Then you see this visual filter that you can filter the state based on the number of petitions. And I go back to the story, and here I drag the filter, increase the threshold for the number of petitions. Then you can only highlight, the states that have the most petitions. So kind of this highlighting matches the narrative description here. So that's that. That's for our third story point. Let me move on to the fourth story point. In this case, we're gonna use scatter plot to highlight the relationship between the number of petitions and the median salaries. Uh, so the caption says that the high volume filers tend to offer mid-range salaries. So I will explain what I mean by that. So these high filers, high filer, even if they file the highest number of petitions, they don't typically offer the high salary. So we want to highlight that using first annotations. So I'm going to create annotation. In this case, I want to use an area annotation. And I will put this annotation text here and create an annotation like this. And we have an area annotation. I'm going to move this caption text, put it here, and then you can separately adjust the size of the rectangle to, select the high filers. But the gray saturation box background is kind of hiding the circle. So we're gonna format these annotations and remove the shading. And we can also customize the border thickness and color as well. And then adjust the text box sizes if you want, like this, and move it here, and maybe slightly increasing the text box like this. Maybe I can put it inside the box here. So here we are highlighting these top filers, even if they don't support, typically they don't provide high salary. So I wanted to highlight that in the scatter plot. Again, here we can also add a narrative text as well. I'm going to drag the text box here and then paste the narrative text, hit OK, and place it in an empty space, maybe here. So that looks good. So that is our fourth story point. And then we're gonna move to the final scene where we gonna let the users to explore the dashboard. So in this way, I think there may be many different story structures out there, but mainly in this story point, I kind of focused on how to provide a guidance for the users, leading up to the final dashboard where they can explore the data on their own.